The Business Oddcast.
Hello and welcome to another Business Oddcast. I am Stuart Morrison and this is
Hannah Logan.
fantastic. And we're your hosts today on the Business Oddcast. How you doing, Hannah?
Yeah, pretty good, Stu. Thank you.
What is the topic of the week?
Oh, the topic. The topic of the week is the anti-hustle toolkit. I'm all about the anti-hustle. Doing less without falling apart.
Tell me about it. I have hustled with the best of them and broke myself on several occasions.
I keep going back for more. It's terrible.
But it's like going training with Usain Bolt.
Constantly being disappointed at your own performance.
Why am I so slow?
Why? Why do I keep putting myself through this?
So the anti-hustle toolkit, what are we looking at today? Tell us about the anti-hustle toolkit.
So what we're looking at really is people like us, the neurodivergent world, or probably a lot of other people too, know that we can't keep going back to hustling, but we don't really know what replaces that, or sometimes we don't really know what replaces that. So, but the problem with hustling or hustle culture is it doesn't just live at work, it actually lives inside our nervous systems. So it's caught up in our self-worth, our fear of being left behind, our belief that rest has to be earned. You know, you've got to keep hustling, consistency, all of that bullshit that I hate. So this episode is basically about dismantling hustle without collapsing. So understanding more about it and knowing that the option isn't to necessarily opt out, but it's about choosing sustainability over self-sacrifice. So we can get the work done without kind of burning ourselves into a little crispy version of ourselves and crying a lot.
Yeah, if you're a refugee from the Gary V School of Business, then you're at home here. We are not going to be hustling very frequently.
Probably get sued now for all the anti-hustle I'm about to rant about. But please don't. Because I don't want to have to sell my children,
You'll have to hustle harder.
Oh yes! Oh my God! Oh yeah! The irony of that.
Oh no!
So that takes us nicely to our first point, really. That, like, I've already touched on it, but hustle culture isn't just external. You know, it's not just around us, salespeople shouting at us. It actually lives inside us, and that is one of the biggest problems. Because even when we reject it as an idea, or we reject hustle intellectually, actually our nervous systems still rely on it, right? So I don't know about you, but for me, adrenaline is a really valid coping strategy, or adrenaline as a coping strategy. It lives alive and well in my body and my brain, and I'd imagine this is kind of taps into the ADHD part of me, part of my brain. But actually, I've always relied on urgency and pressure to actually get stuff done because it gives me that kind of focus and clarity, that temporary surge of focus and clarity. But actually, if we rely on that buzz of adrenaline to keep us ploughing through and hustling like the best of them, like the rest of them, then actually we're just masking underlying stress. And that can all fall apart really quickly.
It's like the straw that breaks the camel's back. Somebody will ask you something fairly benign and you'll be like, what?
Why do you want me to talk to you? Yeah, no, it's brutal. Also, and this is, you know, as I'm thinking about this, I'm like, oh, yeah, this feels very relatable. I've always, in the last 51 years, I've always relied on being busy as a way to actually cope and regulate my emotions, or certainly manage difficult things in my life. I would say as an avoidance technique, really. Work harder, block out the pain, just keep pushing on through.
Well, that's quite interesting, actually. Let me just pick up on that, because when I go somewhere, if it's an unfamiliar place, one of my coping strategies is to appoint myself a job.
Yes.
Like at a party, I'll quite happily do the washing up.
Oh
And
my
people are
gosh.
like, "You're a legend." I'm like, "No, I'm just avoiding small talk. I haven't got the spoons."
It's all part of my rehab, my
Actually-
self-imposed rehab.
Actually, doing washing up, I've got all the spoons.
Yeah, but are they the right ones, Stu?
They're
'Cause
just the
that is
wrong
like-
spoons.
You're literally just angrily looking at all of their spoons. Why are they all different sizes? Yeah.
But yes, it can be used as a mask to the overwhelm and the stress that's going on underneath.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's, the thing that sometimes stops us or makes us stops us putting our foot on the brakes is that actually slowing down can often bring quite a lot of discomfort, because then we are having to face what we're trying to avoid. I'm not suggesting that everybody that hustles is trying to avoid something, but I know for me, that's certainly a thing. And actually, sometimes my strategy does feel, and I'm getting so much better on this, but sometimes if it's not working, I'm just like, you just need to work through the night. I mean, that's not a strategy, is it? Just try harder. It's like we've had a lifetime of kind of, you're just not trying hard enough.
I'll tell you what, the biggest pressure I did to myself was working out how much I spend a day versus how much I earn a day, and constantly seeing myself behind. It's not helpful at all.
No.
Because especially when both the energy and the money turns up in lumps.
Yeah.
And if, for whatever reason, you're looking at the metric when both the pendulum is waiting to swing back, it can be bad to assess yourself by that snapshot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially when you've got the impetus to catastrophize. It's not just bad, it's the worst it's ever been. You're about to die.
We're all going to die. Everybody is.
Just the world's going to explode. So it can be really bad because this is my problem with the hustle culture, and I'm sure we'll get into this, but it seems to be that I think it's going away a little bit more, maybe, but it seems to be that your success is measured in terms of the amount of hours you put into the week. And I don't think that's a very useful metric at all. I don't think you should be working harder and harder and harder to prove to... It's a little bit like we've got a really nice car on the drive because it tells the neighbourhood that we're really successful.
# winning.
But,
bullshit.
But nobody cares.
Maybe they won it. Maybe they literally put no effort into getting it. They just got given it.
That's it. Oh, yeah. That's it. They won it.
So annoying. But that's the point, isn't it? Or that's one of the many points of hustle culture. I won't go on a massive rant about this, but we are led to believe that actually you are only winning if you're earning tons of money and you've got the best car and the best house and the best holidays, and you're documenting that on Instagram so everybody else hates their lives a little bit more. But it becomes part of it can do, that achievement or that perceived achievement can become part of our identity if we're not careful. And then that keeps feeding that need to do a bit harder. And, I go to a lot of networking things where, some of them are just people kind of, I'm just doing this and I'm just, and I've written a 15th book and it's just the kind of Pinterest board of this is how much I'm doing. What do you people always say to me, so how busy are you at the moment? I want to say actually not that busy, and my life's so much nicer for it.
Well, you see, this we'll talk about this at length. So the Italian slow food movement is one that I looked at with interest, because it's like the antidote to fast food, where you just grab something, stuff it in you. That is part of the hustle culture. That right there is, don't take time over your food. You haven't got time to eat. You haven't got time to cook and prepare good, nutritious food. You have to eat on the go, eat at your desk, eat on the run. And I've done all this. I'm more efficient. I am more effective. I am multitasking. I am eating and answering emails.
Protein bar.
I do have indigestion. Yes, I do. And my stomach is a knot, but doesn't matter. I am productive. And then I saw the slow food movement. And this one guy said, life is about enjoyment. And there should be nothing more enjoyable than good food prepared slowly, eaten slowly, and taken time to eat with your friends and the people you love. And I thought to myself, do you know what? They've really got a point. They've really got a point. Why are we shoehorning life into these tiny, small, little little bite-sized pieces, pardon the pun, and going, that's enough, when what we should be doing is feasting. And so my attitude now with my businesses is slow business. It killed me, almost literally, trying to, accelerate and create this massive, great big business with tons of people. I got to 6 employees and imploded. The pressure on me. And you could say, well, that's because you didn't set it up right. But there comes a necessary amount of thrashing the water to a foam to get yourself moving before you can start to afford to employ people to do stuff. So a lot of the times, the early employees are billable hour employees that you can earn off. Because anybody who goes on the books who's not a billable hour, oh my word, that is an instant bottom line cost. So I now take the attitude of, if this work is going to satisfy me at a nurturing level, and this sounds really weird when you say this, but it's the difference between stuffing a fast food meal in your face and enjoying a 3-course lovely home cooked meal, or even a 1-course home cooked meal with friends that make you laugh and relax you. Trying to put your foot on the accelerator and just keep going all the time, I'm afraid, especially for the neurodivergent, I think is sustainable for short bursts of time, but should only be done when absolutely necessary.
Yeah, absolutely that, because sometimes we do need that kind of dopamine hit of just thrashing through something at the last minute and skidding under the door like Harrison Ford, just as the giant boulders go like, because it's like a drug to us, right? There is, or to everybody really, probably, there is that kind of like, whoo, I'm good. Look at me. But actually, if your whole life is that, then you are just constantly feeling like you only just made it. I just hit the deadline. It's super freaking stressful, isn't it? To be on the edge of almost missed it all the time.
Oh, it's toxic.
Really
it
toxic.
Really is toxic. And especially because you're living your life with heightened adrenaline levels all the time. And that's not good for you. Constantly like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I get it. Sometimes the PDA, internal PDA, is like, oh, you need to do that. I'll decide when I do that. You don't determine when I do that. No, Stu. Your own internal voice is saying to you, screaming at you, you need to do such and such. And you're like, yeah, I've still got 3 days. I do it in 2 hours. I'll do it on the last day.
It's so relatable. So relatable. It's funny because, well, this isn't very funny really, but it's interesting to me. So my website's still not live, and I'd imagine there'll be people that have followed the story of my website going, But my point is, I had a conversation with somebody yesterday, and they kind of, and I'm okay with that because it's not ready, and I'll know when it's ready. It's a bit like giving birth. I know when it's ready, and I'll push this. That's a horrible thought. Sorry, everybody listening. I will send this beautiful thing out into the world when I feel like it's ready. It's like a ship that I'm gonna set sail. That sounds a lot more impressive than it really is. But my reality is I feel an external pressure from people that don't know me very well, just saying, oh, Hannah, just do it, like I'm an idiot that it's not been done. But actually, it's not been done for PDA. It's not been done because I'm not ready yet. It's not been done because I'm a perfectionist. There's lots of reasons. But actually, I've got more work recently without a live website. So it's not actually impacting me as a business. It's that external pressure of everybody deciding for me that it needs to. Do you know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, it does. I want to get it out there, and I'm finishing it as we speak, but not literally right now. But it's that pressure again. Random people that don't really know me very well, just going, "Oh, Hannah," they want to say, "You're so shit. Why have you not done it yet?" And I don't need that.
Keep your opinion unless I ask for it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not interested. Would you like a refund on that opinion? There it is, right there. There's your refund. If you're listening along, I'm giving the imaginary person a finger. Yes, that finger. So I think that there's a particular fear and we've sort of touched on this fear of falling behind, this fear of if I stop or I slow down at some point, I'm missing out, or I'm not putting my shoulder to the wheel enough, or contributing enough. And that's a really toxic mindset. And I've been there. All the things we're going to talk about today. I've been there. I've got the T-shirt. I've got a display cabinet, actually, with all the trophies. But there is this fear that you're falling behind, especially if you're come back after burnout. And like we've discussed, your capacities may be different. I've certainly realised that my ability to do a 12 to 18 hour day has long passed. And the more that I try and push at that, the worse it becomes. Just this kind of, it's almost like, when you're pushing two magnets together at the same pole. It's a bit like that. The more I try, the more of the resistance my brain goes, no. It's like it's trying to protect itself. And I do think that there's slightly this kind of, I'm falling behind, I'm falling out of relevance. But here's an interesting statistic. And this, I cling to this because it doesn't matter how long I've been doing this. This is pretty much the statistic that works. 80% of my business comes from word of mouth. People who haven't even looked at my website. We picked up a hosting customer this week. All he wanted to know was I local? He wants to be able to come round and knock on my door. He said, if anything goes wrong, can I come round and knock on your door?
Scary, and I went, Stuart. It's a bit worrying.
I said, well, not at midnight, no. And he said, no. But the point to it is that I trust you because you're local. Whereas, he's got my mobile number. He knows where I live. He feels comfortable with that I'm not going to somehow end up doing something horrible or irreversible for his website. I was hosting his website. It's quite straightforward from our perspective. So there's a lot of the times you think, if I don't have the latest stuff, if I don't have the greatest stuff, if I don't have the most up-to-date website, the most up-to-date social media, I haven't done a post for this, I haven't done that. Don't worry about it. Go to the networking. Get your work out there. Share it. It builds over time. I think a small local business should be looking at a time horizon, and they're going to throw their hands in the air, of 12 to 18 months before your finances are stable, to the point where you can start to think about, right, and if you do it before that, absolutely fantastic. This isn't like it's going to definitely take you that. But I think once you've made the move to self-employment, it takes 3 to 6 months for you to get all your shit together. Are you compliant? Have you registered with the HMRC? Have I got a website? Have I got business cards? All of that kind of stuff. It takes a while. And all the time you go around to all the networking meetings, you'll meet people who will make you think, I need to have that in place. I need to have that in place. Actually, you just need to keep turning up and be consistent. That's the unwritten truth of the matter, is if you turn up to the same networking event that's well attended, in your area, and there's between 20 and 50 regular attendees, you'll pick up business. You just will, especially if you're interested in what other people do. I always lead with, how can I help? Because that's all about the other person then, isn't it? What are you up to at the moment? What's the biggest problem? How can I help? Now, I'm in a privileged position with Signal. I'm the ambassador, co-host. I get to talk about other people more than I get to talk about myself, which I find awkward. I know I've got an entire podcast here where we're talking about ourselves. But in a networking meeting, I always want to lean in and get the person talking to me. So the point to it is, there's a lot of people out there with long-standing businesses that don't have websites, that don't have all of the fancy AI tools and all of the processes in place, and they earn a decent enough living that keeps their head above water. And I decided to swap the stress and regular burnout from trying to accelerate to 1,000 miles an hour from standstill to actually being quite content with my lot and living a relatively frugal lifestyle. I refuse to eat poor. That's my luxury. I will eat well. But that's the point, is you have to decide where you cut your cloth. And I found that trying to replicate a larger business myself, I just didn't work.
No, I completely hear you. I was on a call yesterday with a fabulous person that sort of teaches sales and mainly sales. And they were saying about, how much do you want to earn every month? And I kind of said, I'm not going to get into this conversation because I know that I'll say X thousand and you'll say, no, you can earn 10 times that. And then I'll say, that feels like a lot of pressure and I won't sleep very well. And then you'll say, oh, you're not ambitious. And it will just get really brutal. And I don't want to get involved in any of that bullshit. So one thing I did want to come back to when you were saying 12 to 18 months or so I totally agree with that. That's completely, I totally agree with that. But if you're me and you keep pivoting, then just remember that you go back to day one again. So I'm like 13 years in and I've pivoted so many times. Every time I pivot, I'm like, I appear to have ramped my earnings right back down again. So, but yeah, needing to build that momentum. And like you said, Stu, as well, we all have different goals and different needs and different sort of priorities, and success doesn't mean, I know we've touched on this in other podcasts, but success is not one thing. The goal is not painted in gold and we all have a Mercedes or whatever other cars are available, sorry. That's not it. Success for me actually looks like work, health, life balance, because quite frankly I burnt myself out quite substantially about 18 months ago and I'm paying the price ever since with physical health problems. So I am literally the poster girl for this episode of do not do this. I've learned.
I want to sort of pick up on the pivot thing. Pivots are great. If what you're doing is not working, pivot. The marketplace is saying to you, we don't want to buy what you're selling if it's not working. So doing something different, pivoting and taking a different route. I often talk to a business owner and in a candid moment, they'll say to me something like, yeah, it's not going that great. And I'm like, so why don't you change your ideal customer, or why don't you change your offer, or why don't you offer a side thing or a introductory thing to get people? And it takes time to try these things out and go out there. And I think what people are afraid of is that internal consistency. We all like to be internally consistent. So you say something and then you live that thing. So when you go out into the marketplace and go, we offer product A or service A, and nobody, deafening silence.
Tumbleweeds.
People think that, if I go out there and now say we offer service B, product B, people are going to go, oh, well, you're not very good because you were offering. So people don't care. People aren't paying attention. They really aren't. If I go out into the marketplace and say, and I've done this, I've gone to full networking events with T-shirts on saying what we did to try it out to see if that made people come over and talk to me and go, oh, that's interesting, tell me more about it. And when you get literally zero response to, even when you point at your T-shirt and they go, what do you do? And you point at the T-shirt and time for a pre-pivot pivot.
I love that. I was talking to a client the other day and I said to her, what do you really, we talk about strategy, and I said, what do you really enjoy doing? She offers coaching and well-being stuff. She's brilliant. And she starts to say, well, this particular course is the most profitable because, and I said, no, come back to what I said. What do you really enjoy doing? And she was like, well, I really enjoy doing these little mini sessions. And I said, but then that's what we need to push more of. It's not actually at this point, if you're just driven by money, then you would just keep pushing the ones that give you the most profit. But actually, there's a balance to be had where your enjoyment, in my world, the enjoyment and the things that you find easy to do because you enjoy them, definitely prioritize what's the most profitable. Or do you know what I mean? There's that balance there. Yeah. Otherwise, you're just doing something you hate just because it's a bit more money. What's the point in that?
No, I've often said you cannot sustain a business that you hate. If you get out of bed and your feet hit the carpet too many mornings in a row and your shoulders sag and you go, oh, I've got to do this again today. Do something. You're the master of your own fate. You can do whatever you like. You're an entrepreneur. If you decide that baking isn't the thing that you want to do anymore and you'd rather be doing, I don't know, cutting paper doilies, hand cutting paper. I don't know where it came from.
That's a bit random, Stu.
It is. But the point to it is you are your own master. As long as you communicate this, and if you've got any customers or any contracts or any legal obligations, you deal with those. I'm not saying just drop everything, but you are the master of your own fate. You get to choose what you do with your time when you're self-employed. So figure something else. I was watching a video of a guy who basically quit his full-time job without really much of a plan, and he's replaced his income with what he calls a basket of incomes. And there was nothing he said that I could disagree with. It was like he got a baseline simple job which required no brain power. Like it might have been a small retail job, you know. And he goes in and he does that a few hours a week. That gives him a few £100. He says pays for some of the essentials and some of the overheads. But he's then built up streams of income, and this is great. You know, he's got a little bit of stream of income from YouTube, some from Facebook, a little bit on Etsy. He does a little bit of other side hustles. And he said, I feel more relaxed and more comfortable now because although I don't have the big career and the big money, he said, I don't feel like I'm constantly waiting for somebody to tell me, we no longer need your services. And I'll lose all of my income overnight. He said, I jumped before I was pushed, sort of thing. But that's the point to it, is if your business brings you joy, but it doesn't bring you money, that's great. I realise you've got to have money to survive. That's the way we do things on this planet, apparently. Odd to me, but there you go. Don't let me get into it. But the point to it is that you can adjust accordingly. You know, sometimes we have to do the necessary pain work to do the enjoyable work. You know, nobody likes, well, unless you're an accountant, nobody likes doing accounts. The point is, I think, that if what you're doing feels like a job, change it. You are the master of your own fate. Don't build a perfect prison. I know I did.
I think we've both been there, Stuart. We've definitely both been there. So one thing I was going to say is a lot of the spicier brained amongst us really love that variety, like you were explaining about the guy with the basket of different things. And I personally I want to build up more sort of subtle income streams doing the things I love. Like my daughter and I do a load of craft stuff on the side, bit of a side hustle. It's not a huge earner, but actually it brings us joy because we're making things and selling them.
The point to this is, let's say you've got an Etsy, you've got an eBay, you've got a something, and it makes you 50 quid a month. If you were walking down the street and you found 50 quid, you'd be made up. You'd be telling everyone about it, wouldn't it? You won 50 quid on the premium bonds. I know I have. You tell everyone, I won 50 quid in the premium bonds this month. Everyone's like, oh, that's fantastic. But it's a little bit like that. You know, you get a few 50 quid wins a month and that can lift the pressure. Definitely.
And like you said with that guy, it's not all of your eggs in one basket. I mean, I remember when COVID came about, I worked for a exhibition company, printing company, and that was they were my main clients. So that was 90% of my income. And sadly for them, although they have since resuscitated themselves, thank goodness, but sadly for them, they just it all died overnight, as did my 90% of my income. And don't get me wrong, that wasn't, obviously a lot more awful, horrific stuff happened due to COVID. It wasn't just about me. It's not all about you, Hannah. But my point being, that was pretty much all my eggs in one basket. Yeah. Surfing on that complacency and then, oh, oops, yeah.
I was in a weird place during COVID. Let's not go there. So, do you think there's a myth that hustle equates safety?
Yeah, I think so. But I think it's a bit Stockholm syndrome, isn't it? It's kind of, we've convinced ourselves that if we just keep hustle, work harder, Stu, and then, it will kind of create us this little safety zone, or it feels somehow protective. But at the end of the day, it ends up most of the time, sadly, and certainly has in my life, it ends up creating the collapse that we're actually trying to avoid. Yeah. We're rush, trying to keep ahead of the chaos. But actually, by doing that, we're creating more. And we're using this kind of over-functioning, must-do better thing as a form of control, or I certainly do. But actually, what it does in my experiences, prolongs the pain. It masks the anxiety, but it doesn't remove it. It creates a lot more, and it just masks it for ages. So yeah, it's fairly hideous, really. And as I'm saying this, I do this still. I'm literally living what we are telling you not to do. I'm going to go home and rethink my life choices.
Gonna have to have a word.
Because the reality is, it's that kind of short-term gains. You'll whiz through, you'll burn yourself out. But I will, writing a blog till 1 a.m, and I'm like, yes, #winning. But actually, long-term, it's causing damage, and I'm beginning to see that now. There was a time where I couldn't see that at all, but now, very rarely do I write a blog at 1 a.m, and I'm not doing that. I should just be clear on this. I'm not doing that because I've run out of time. Sometimes I'm just doing that because that's what my brain's like. Hello at midnight, with a brilliant idea, and if I don't voice note that bad boy immediately, then it's never coming back into my brain. This is not all about. I hope I'm not painting a picture that it's like, oh, we're all useless and we don't manage our time. That's not, a lot of the time it's not that at all. Sometimes I wait, like some kind of weird sort of trip that I get off this stuff. I wait till the final moment and then start the project. I love that kind of, I don't know what it is really, dopamine, the adrenaline rush from it all. Also, I think that burnout cycles can be disguised as ambition, because we're, again, buying into that hustle of kind of intense productivity is the goal. It's framed as dedication and drive, like, oh, he's constantly working, he's such a winner.
Oh, that's the letting the side down thing again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What are you doing relaxing? Oh, look, I see you relaxing over there in your comfy clothes. What the fuck? Get back to work. It's that weird thing that even if people aren't saying that to us, and genuinely or generally they're not, right? But actually we're hearing that, especially if we've had a lifetime of people telling us, if you'd only done it better, why did you do it like that, you idiot? So yeah.
If you only were more organised. That's what it is.
Oh, I just didn't realise. I thought being disorganised was the way forward. I had no idea. And that's the point. The amount of times, I'm not going to go off on a rampage about this, but the number of times where I used to say to my mum all the time, and I still do occasionally, sorry, Mum, if you're listening, I'd say, if you don't have a fucking time machine and you can't take me back to 2 days ago where I made a bad decision, then giving me a little 48-hour later lecture on, like, if only you'd done this, it just makes me feel worse. It's not only you messed up, but it's a kind of reminder of why I'm so stupid. Yeah, it's
and thank you for attending my TED talk on why you need a time machine.
I wish I did have a time machine.
Yeah.
I'd go back to when I was 16.
Where would you go back to? What point? You get one hit. And you're there for an hour.
Oh gosh, Stu, there's so many points in my life I'd like to go back and just
The highlight reel of disappointment.
And you know what? Most of them would just be going back and saying no.
Stop it. What
Literally
are you doing?
going back and, Hannah, 16-year-old Hannah, he's an idiot. Do not go out with this guy. 18-year-old Hannah, another idiot. Stop going out with idiots.
Yeah, see, I didn't have that trouble. That wasn't where my idiocy played.
There was a lot of desperation involved, Stu. It wasn't like there was a long queue of 20 suitors and I was like, which one shall I pick? It was literally like, I'll pick the lunatic because he's the only one coming to the front of the queue.
Yeah, dating
Memories.
advice.
We have to definitely do
Definitely a dating episode.
I'm like a pro on that stuff, on what not to do.
Yeah. I'm going to give you a long list of things to avoid that apparently the opposite sex do not like. They do not have a fascination with the finer points of a VW flat 4 cooled engine, Stuart. I have seen many people's hope die in their eyes.
Slip into a little coma and fall over. Are you listening?
He looks interesting. Let's talk to him. Oh no, this is bad.
He's too interesting. Can you be too interesting?
I think you can.
Oh my God. So my final point on this really would be the kind of reiteration that pushing through, burning yourself to a little crunchy crisp is just self-harm. It's literally self-harm. There might be a point where you feel like, look at me being productive, but actually you're just hurting yourself. If you're burning yourself out and trying to convince yourself that means that you're achieving better or something, then you're just kidding yourself at that stage. And you know, persistently overriding those warning signs, feeling shit and kind of all of that stuff. It's so self-damaging.
Oh yeah. It's one of the things that will definitely lead to burnout. As you use more and more of your energy to run faster and faster and faster, your ability to cope with it goes down. So you make more mistakes. And then you end up in a self-defeating spiral, which always ends under a duvet with the lights off, crying, rocking.
Eating marshmallows. I don't know why I said that. That's just a me thing, I think.
Trying not to get crumbs in the bed, yeah.
Marshmallows don't produce crumbs. They are perfect.
But they got the sugary powder on them.
They get all sticky. Yeah, we don't want that.
We don't want that.
One thing I do want to add that came into my little brainium, don't forget that one of the many benefits in my brain of being self-employed is I don't have to work between 9 and 5. So if I had a particularly productive evening last night where I actively decided to work on some strategy and stuff for about, from 7 o'clock for a couple of hours, that is not like, oh, look at Hannah working in the evening, she's a loser. I chose that, and there were times in my day that I didn't do, or quite a lot of my daytime that I didn't do any work. So that wasn't, I think we are made to feel that actually if you're working outside of office hours, I'm doing the inverted commas like obnoxious thing here, then you're a loser. But actually that's, for me, my office hours are whenever I feel the need and it comes into my brain. So yeah, I'm happy working in an evening because I'm not doing that because I didn't achieve enough in the day. I'm doing that because I chose that to be the part of my day that I'm doing some work. So we all just have different levels of energy and times where our brains are really productive and when they're not. So that's the joy of self-employment, that I can work with that rather than try and fight it.
Definitely. That's got to be one of the biggest benefits, the biggest luxuries, is being able to determine where and when you deliver the work. And in fact, it's one of HMRC's tests of whether you're an employee or a self-employed person. Do you get to choose the means and method of which you deliver the work? And, I've always maintained that the work will be done, might not necessarily be done by me, might not necessarily be done by tomorrow. It will be done by the contracted date. And at that point, I can determine whether or not, or what bits I need to deliver, or what bits I can outsource. And I quite like to outsource the bits I don't like, even though sometimes I don't make as much as the person I've outsourced to. The point being, I've saved all of that time to earn again. So I do the bit that I really like, hand off the bit that either I'm not particularly good at or stresses me out, or for whatever reason I don't want to or can't do, and everyone wins. And they get a project manager who knows, at what stage various things are at. And that's what they're paying for. So I don't feel guilty that I'm not working 8-hour days. As long as the customer's getting updated and they know what they're doing. Most days I'm in the office by 10 o'clock. Most days I'm in the office by 9 o'clock, to be fair. But if I'm in at 9 and I know that I've got to be in at 10, that's a win. That's a pat on the back. Not a, I should have been in at 8. I'm an hour late. I'm only productive in the morning, really. In the afternoon, I'm good. I'm all right. I will get on with some me stuff. But I usually do the customer stuff in the morning because that's when my brain can focus. But once I've eaten, forget it. My brain's digesting food and thinking about the next meal.
Recently, my brain has I've obviously pressed some kind of button unbeknownst to myself, and my brain's gone into what I call granny mode. And I've started going to bed quite early and then waking up at 6. I'm literally my grandma. I remember when I used to live in a flat beneath her, and she'd get up at 4, and then in a really miserable way she'd say, "You don't know, when you get to my age, you don't know how much time you've got." Oh my God. And I remember thinking, well, that won't happen to me. But it is. I'm 51 years old. My brain's like, make the most of it, Hannah. Maybe it's sending me some kind of warning signal. But yeah, I'm a morning person, and although I do some work in the evenings if it feels like the right moment, but actually, yeah, the morning I'm on fire and I'm just ploughing through stuff, and that's the brilliant thing. When I was employed, they just got extra hours of. I used to get into the office at 8, even though, or no, about 7:30, even though I was being paid from 9. So they just got loads of extra time out of me, work time for free, which sucks.
Yeah,
So,
it does suck. But when your brain wants to do it, it's almost like it doesn't matter what you do, your brain's going to be doing it. So you might as well. Yeah, I have days where I wake up and I've got like something obsessing in my brain. I just have to get into the office. But this is where I think you've got to make some adjustments, and this is where the real anti-hustle culture attitude has to come in, because it has to meet real world conditions. You can say all of the good stuff, Stu, you want. You can put your feet on the sofa and not work in the afternoon and make your time your own. Yeah. I've got bills to pay and I've got work to do. We see, this is where you have to there are certain areas that you have to be really certain about, and some that you make compromises about. And things like financial pressure. So there's going to be financial pressure, but you have to have an honest conversation with your partner and your dependents and say, working this hard or doing this in this way, I am harming myself. I'm going to burn out, and then the recovery will be even harder. So you need to have that honest conversation, and I have had those conversations with Jem around this. And sometimes it's just allowing your partner to let you be kinder to yourself, because if your partner truly loves you, they don't want to see you burnt out and stressed and a complete mess. And like, I was a hair trigger. I really was a hair trigger when I was close to burnout. You could say something nice to me and I would snap, because I would hear it in a completely different tone in which it was delivered. So you need to have those conversations. And you also need to manage those external expectations. I think a lot of small business owners put way too much pressure on themselves when they could outsource and they could look at processes and systems, which gives them more time. And what tends to happen is they look at the bottom line and they go, yeah, well, if I pay somebody to do that, I don't earn that money and it costs me extra. Well, they're not making the full connection with, they get all the time back. And that time can be spent doing more of the stuff that they enjoy. So their business ends up being less of a stress because they're spending a greater percentage of the time doing the stuff they love. So if you're a designer and you hate doing accounts, get a bookkeeper. Right? You'll spend more time doing the stuff you like. As soon as I realised that outsourcing and getting a PA and getting a bookkeeper and doing all of that and giving people the tasks and the jobs that I find stressful or take me twice as long as somebody else, I'm going to outsource that. Absolutely, 100%.
Exactly. Also, often a lot of those things that you're needing or you're outsourcing, you're paying that person probably less than you are billable than you are able to bill for your own time. So does that make sense?
Oh, I think it's most of the people that I speak to, small business owners, are not charging enough for their time because they're not building in a margin. So think of it like this. You quote the customer to do a job and you think to yourself, well, as long as I'm earning £20, £25 an hour, that's more than I'd be getting in a shop or whatever it was I was doing, my wage prior to being self-employed. But you're not factoring in what happens if you're not available to do it. How do you fulfill that contract if suddenly you're not there? And so you have to charge a commercial rate because that's the risk you're managing. You're managing your time against not being able to do it, or the project, for whatever reason, requiring somebody else to do it. If you're not charging 30 quid or more at least, then you haven't built enough margin in for risk should you not be able to do it. And don't think, well, yeah, but I'm in good health and life comes along.
Oh, yes, it does. Takes away All those things you just relied on. Yeah.
Exactly. And also, if you are neurodivergent, you don't know when the whole neurodivergent brain is going to kick in and suddenly,
Squirrel time.
squirrel time, or I've had burnouts that have come out of absolutely nowhere for reasons that I'm like, oh yeah, that was that thing 3 months ago that I've just finished processing, and now I haven't got any processing power. So don't make commercial errors when quoting for work, and think about what happens if I'm not around to do this work. What happens? How do I get this work done? Because then you're starting to think like a proper entrepreneur, because you're like, okay, so if I could outsource that and I could just go around hoovering up these jobs, means that I can deliver the jobs without having to do all the work. And yeah, I only get 20% of the work of the money, but that's 20% to do 100% of the stuff I love. I find it odd sometimes, people's attitudes to money. Money is a fungible resource. It comes, it goes. Time is finite.
Absolutely. And I did a bit of research on this the other week. Did you know that the self-employed equivalent of the minimum wage is £18 an hour? So if you charge £18 an hour, you're getting minimum wage. So that just shows you, it was just over £18, I think, but I can't remember the exact exact numbers. But that just tells you that actually so many people, when they ask my rate, or they used to, they'd be like, oh, but I could pay so-and-so like £12, whatever, to do that. Yeah, but it's a completely different rate if you're self-employed. I'm paying my own national insurance. I'm paying all the things that you would pay as an employer. So yeah, just think about that. If you're looking at what you want to charge or what you should charge an hour, then it has to be up from £18 an hour. Otherwise, you're on minimum wage. It's crazy.
The thing is also, a self-employed person, you own your own job, you're your own manager. You have to do all of the associated tax, national insurance, all of the accounting around that, manage the money, chase the money, get the money in, deal with suppliers, deal with all of the other things that go with it. £18 an hour, seriously? If somebody came to me and said, could you run my business for £18 an hour?
No.
Not going to happen. Run it and
maybe
do
£80 an hour.
Oh yeah. But I think people undervalue their time massively, and also you overestimate the amount of time you think that you can be earning. I would like people to realise that you're going to be earning for about 10 months a year. And 10 months a year? I can't live on... No, you're going to be earning 10 months a year. You've got 4 weeks holiday, right? And if you go, oh yeah, well, I just won't take any holidays. Welcome to Burnout Town. That's where it starts. That's the hustle culture right there.
I'm the poster girl for never taking any holidays. Do not do this.
Well, you get 7 bank holidays a year anyway, so you're not going to be earning on those days. Well, well, some people will, if you're a plumber or whatever. But the point to it is that those are 7 rest days. Where are you going to insert those rest days? Oh, I'm just not going to. Okay, that's all right if you're quite young. You'll burn some of your youth away.
You'll lose a few months off your life.
Yeah, exactly. And that will sustain you for a bit. But it's a little bit like going into the overdraft. The bank's going to look the other way if you've got an arranged overdraft for £100, but don't spend £200. And I've seen it happen, and people think that they can make up the shortfall in their earnings by working harder and doing more hours where they're underpaying themselves. That doesn't lead anywhere good, and I absolutely 100% know, because I did it.
Me too. Me too.
I did it.
I remember when, we've talked about Signal earlier on in this podcast, but that is a fabulous local networking community where we are. We're so much more than that. But I remember when I first joined there, and I spoke to Emma, who is the owner, the runner of the whole thing. And she asked me what I charged per hour, and it was something really pathetic. And I said it proudly because I thought I think it was like £20 an hour. And I was like, £20, that's pretty good, because that's way more than the £12 or whatever. And she just looked at me and was like, what? You need to be charging double that. What are you doing? Like, at least. And that was such an eye-opener for me, because I think, and that was ages ago now, a lot has changed, and I've got that confidence and all of that stuff triggered from that moment, really. Thanks, Emma, if you're listening. But my point being, when we're setting our own wage, it can be really awkward, because we're like, oh, I don't really know. And, and you look at what you look in your industry and you see what people are charging, and, the top end and the midpoint and all of that stuff. But actually, we're not usually, most of us are probably or have been at a point in our lives as a self-employed person where we are not charging enough. I did it for about 6 years, charging a pittance, and then the eyeball opening moment where I realised I could do half that work for the same money if I just charged the right amount was like ping, giant light bulb. It's not difficult maths, is it? But it took me a while to get to it. So.
And if you're getting pushback from the market, from the customers, you're either talking to the wrong people or the value of what you're delivering has not been fully expressed.
Yeah.
Just as a complete aside, if you're thinking, oh God, £20 an hour and then doubling it to £40 an hour, let me give you a viewpoint from a retail perspective. When you buy something in the shops, that is not the price that everyone who has handled that product has paid. That's the retail price. The way a retail price works is, and I'm going back a bit here, I used to have a business that created retail products that were in popular stores across the world. And it used to be that the manufacturer would double the price of the cost of manufacturing. So if something cost 50 cents, it was always done in cents, World Reserve banking currency. If it cost 50 cents to produce, the manufacturer would sell it for $1, okay? And they would sell it to the wholesaler. Now, the wholesaler would get that preferential price because they were going to buy 1 million units a year, So they went, okay, so it's a pound per unit, $1 per unit. The wholesaler sells to the retailer at double the price. So the wholesaler is now selling it to the retailer for $2 a unit. So that's 4 times the amount it costs to make it. Has it increased in value by 4 times? No. It's all the work that it's taken to get that product to the point where it's in the shop. Now, the retailer, they will mark it up, and I'm talking novelties and gifts was my area. Other areas, other industries use different multipliers, and multipliers change as well. There's my disclaimer. The retailer would mark it up between 2.3 and 2.5 times. Okay, so that means if the wholesaler is buying it for £1 and selling it for £2, the retailer will buy it for $2, will probably sell it for $5, because that's about 2.5 times the $2. So that's how you get to a $4.99 price. So when you see something in a retail store that is 50% off, they're still making money on it. Okay, not maybe the right margin, but they're still making money on it, depending on their overheads. And the reason I highlight that is that if you're doing work for somebody, okay, it's the amount of value you're bringing to it, not the number of hours. And so your multiplier is your hourly rate, okay, rather than just multiplying it by these agreed standards. So I am asking and giving permission to everybody who's listening to this to increase their hourly rate. How much you increase it in, up to you. But if you have not increased your hourly rate in the last 2 years, you have effectively been discounted by inflation of about 10% at least, if not 15%, maybe 20%, depends. But if you think about it in real terms, the £100 that you earn is now not buying £100 worth of stuff, it's buying £80 worth of stuff. So you've got to multiply it. And that's the insidious march of inflation. So do look at your pricing. If you're thinking to yourself, but sure, I can't slow down, look at your pricing. That's where I would start, is like, can you afford to eke some hours back? Instead of trying to increase the number of the number in your bank account, look to see if you can reduce the number of hours you're working and keep the same income, because that's the key to this. This is the thing. You're going to work against your internal cultural, we've all got it. It doesn't matter what culture, what society. I've got the good old Protestant work ethic. You get up, you do your 8 hours, you contribute to society.
Keep burning.
Burn through that, baby. Burn through all of that, everything you've got. We want it all. We want you wrung out at 65.
Crying.
So let's say we've perfected our hourly rate. Let's say we've perfected the number of hours we're putting into the week. How do we prevent this coming back and like a rising tide, like work inflation? How do we stop the hustle from knocking at the door and letting itself back in?
I think we need to redefine it, really, don't we? We need to kind of step away from the idea that we are only valued on the amount, on our output. We need to look at we need to get away from that. And it's really hard because we live in a society where we are told repeatedly that we are only defined on what we produce, whatever that is.
Well, we've got to shift the paradigm.
Yeah.
And the way the paradigm shifts is in your own head first. You don't expect the world to align and then you can... This is what I do not understand. People complain about stuff not being the way they want, and yet they don't want to change their own behaviour. They want to wait for the world to change and then they'll change. And it's like, that's not how change works. Having experienced massive change in my own life because of self-directed action, it always happened because internally, I don't want to live in a world where there's litter. So I pick up litter when I see it. And I've had people say to me in the street, oh, leave it, that's somebody else's job. It's like, not quite the attitude, is it? But that's the same with anything. If you want to see the change, be the change. And I know that's a bit woo and a bit kind of,
I love the woo.
I'm
all over the woo.
And a bit self-helpy, but it is a self-evident truth to me. It's like when I went from being an engineer to an actor, I just started telling everyone I was an actor. I waited for the world to catch up. And I think that's the same with the anti-hustle. You have to internalise it and go, I'm not going... Obviously, you've got to be self-employed and you've got to put in the right, checks and balances. But tomorrow is Friday. I've got an event in the morning and the rest of my Friday is sacrosanct. That I will answer an email or two, but I will go and progress my own life projects, my own special interests, without any guilt. It's the guilt, though. It's that I'm skiving off, or I'm doing this, or there's, the big man in the sky, or whatever shape, flavour, or, coloration that is for you in your life. They're all looking over my shoulder and judging me, and I'm a poor person. And you just got to get that narrative and squash it. It has to die, because
kill it.
Because
Kill it with fire.
There's only two outcomes to this. Either you burn out, which is a little bit of you dying, or that attitude dies.
Exactly that. And actually, why are we not, or you and I probably are, to be honest with you, but a lot of people won't be, why are we not celebrating the maintenance, the day-to-day, the stuff that we just get done? Why are we thinking that we are defined by what we create, but actually just celebrating the systems, the relationships, the existing work, all of that stuff? That's just as important as generating new ideas. If you get to the end of your day and you've managed to keep the plates in the air without adding new ones in, that's incredible, right? That should be celebrated. That is achieving.
Oh, if you're up and dressed before lunch.
Yeah.
That's a tick in a box.
If I just managed to have a cup of tea, I'm celebrating. So maintenance is a really integral part of the process. So it's not less than. If you get to the end of... I've said it myself. You get to the end of the day and you think, I didn't really do much. And what you mean, or what I mean when I'm being self-deprecating like that, is that I didn't do anything new. But I have done stuff. I've finished all the stuff I needed to do that day. So, all the day-to-day stuff that was on my mental list. And yet sometimes we beat ourselves up because we didn't add anything fancy, new and shiny to the mix.
There's also the just getting through a day sometimes. That's enough.
Yeah,
You've got a hectic day and you've done 8 hours and you get to the end of it and you feel, or you get to the end of the week and you just are done. Well done. Congratulations, you got to the end of the week. And it doesn't matter really what you achieved. Yes, you want to be, a little further ahead than behind. But there's always next week.
Yeah, and stop raising the bar, right? If we keep raising that self-expectation bar, then we're just gonna lead. It is just gonna lead us into like exhaustion town.
Nobody wants on their tombstone, capable of a 16-hour day, died at 40.
Kids never recognise them. Yeah, exactly. And I think this is something I struggle with because I am a perfectionist, and I used to say that like a badge of honour, but actually sometimes it is quite often to my detriment because sometimes I find it really hard to know when something is complete and sufficient and enough, because I do have that inner pressure that's like it's not quite there, that perfectionism, which I think if a therapist was here now would probably say it was linked to some form of power, so some kind of control in my brain. We won't go there because we don't want to take the lid off my brain. That will end badly.
If a friend came to you and they were saying all this, you'd be like, chill out, dude, calm down. You don't understand. I've got to do 80-hour weeks. Why? Well, because it shows that I'm a proper entrepreneur. Does it now?
Yeah, it just shows that you're slowly fading into like burnout town.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it does creep back in. I'll just do an extra one. I'll just do, or the knock at the door, ring of the bell, email drops, shiny, nice new piece of work. Oh, I can do that. Oh, let me do that. This weekend, I got offered a gig in London. Ooh,
Nice.
At the Science Museum. Ooh, starts at 9 o'clock at night on a Sunday. No.
That's a hard no from me.
No.
I'm in my pyjamas by then.
Like being in central London at 9 o'clock on a Sunday. The number has to be large and a car at either end. I'm not driving there and I'm not driving back. Stuart, that's a bit up yourself. No, those are my expectations.
Yeah. And that's really important, isn't it?
It's the red rope around the time, I'm telling you.
And I'm not there yet because I'm like, I'll do it, Stu. I just need to be a lot taller. And
But you see, this is where gigging actually was really good, because when we used to gig, and we had gigs like this, 9 o'clock in London, 3 hours of performance and then home. It's not the 3 hours. It's not even the 3 hours before the 3 hours. So, leaving home, picking up the other person in the act, driving to the place, parking, getting in ahead, being there at least an hour and a half beforehand, getting into costume, getting into character, doing the gig, getting out of costume, getting out of character, making sure the customer's happy, takes about an hour, back in the car, you're back home, you're home at 3 a.m. So that's taken you 9 hours. That's a 9-hour day to do a 3-hour gig.
Yeah.
And that's pretty representative. But that's not the end of the gig, because when you get home from work at 5 o'clock in the evening or 7 o'clock in the evening, you don't go straight to bed.
No.
So at 3 o'clock, you're sitting around going, I'm going to have a cup of tea. I'm wide awake, so you have a cup of tea and then you go to bed. And then you get up at 10 o'clock, 5-6 hours after you've been to sleep. And then you put your foot back on the accelerator because you're like the manager of your own act. So you then get into biz. And too much of that just burns you out. And I don't think people realise, actually, that their equivalent of whatever a gig is taking the toll it is on their time and basically corroding their soul. That's why you need to up your prices and down your work hours.
Yeah, exactly that. Because, well, I can't.
Well, what politician's ever going to get voted for saying that, isn't it? Double your prices and half your hours. GDP.
But on the back of what you just said, it's being realistic about what the task, the job, the client, whatever it is, takes out of you. Because we've all worked with clients where, writing a blog for one client is not exactly the same as writing a blog for another client. One of them might take forever to sign it off, and you're chasing and chasing and chasing, and suddenly that work time, even if it's just literally repeatedly chase or whatever it is, suddenly that feels like you need to charge a lot more for the stress and trauma surrounding that project or that piece of work, or you need to be realistic about how much time and energy it actually takes you to do that. So a lot of us are not doing that. We're thinking, it's a 2-hour job, we'll charge 2 hours, and we're not taking into account the mental load,
Yes, yeah,
and all of that stuff.
The other thing you should do if you are providing project work is tack on 1 or 2 hours for admin. That's not harming anyone. It's proving to the customer that you're taking this seriously. You can just blend it into the project hours, but there will be an amount of admin, especially if you're outsourcing and using freelancers, because you've got to brief them. You've got to look over their shoulder. You've got to make sure that they are provisioned and briefed correctly. Before we wrap it up with some takeaways and some tips, I think that the final sort of points I would like to make about building a life that doesn't require hustle to function and inevitable burnout is to be very, very clear and honest about what your personal life human requirements are. If you need 8 hours sleep, that's a non-negotiable. Okay, that has to be sacrosanct. Don't start chipping away at it and expect good things to happen. I've got some rules. I've explained my rules around my life. Oh, an autist with rules. Who'd have thought it? But the point is, these rules are built up that, and I was talking to my daughter about this, they're there as guidelines more than rules. Like, I've got a rule, not in the office after 7 o'clock. Now, twice this week I've been in the office after 7 o'clock, but that's because I didn't get in till lunchtime and I just had some work that just needed to be done. But next week, no days after 7 o'clock. Doesn't matter when I start, because I know that that's the erosion, that's the red rope being burnt through, and I'm not respecting my own rules. And if I can't respect them, don't expect anybody else to. Because you'll constantly be making exceptions. Oh, it's because they're this. Oh, because they're that. So have some hard and fast rules that you are allowed to be flexible with up to a point. Make life simpler. Say no to a few things. If a job makes your heart sink, or a customer, this was always a good test as to whether or not it was good work. When the phone rings or the email drops, if your heart goes, oh, what do they want this time? Yeah, that's not a good relationship. Imagine that relationship.
Set them free at that point.
Exactly. Imagine that relationship in your house. That was your relationship with your wife. If that is your reality, I'm really again. Sorry. Yeah. Oh God, what does she want? Too many times like that. That's not right. So have a word. Energy buffers, otherwise known, aka fire breaks. Okay, you have to take time off to recover, and it's not recovery; it's preparation for the work to come. So that's why you got 2 days at the weekend: 1 day to recover, 1 day to prepare for the work that's going to come. And that's the way I am at the weekend. If somebody wants me to work, they're going to pay a lot of money, enough money that it's going to deter them from asking me, because a hard no, it often offends people. No full stop, no explanation, no backup, no I'm sorry, but he said no, and he's not justifying himself. I need to get angry. That will make him change his mind. Okay, good luck with that. Oppositional defiance disorder, look it up. And then making it a long-term plan and a long-term energy and personal safety plan, because if what you are doing requires more energy than you have, it's like trying to spend more money than you've got. You will end up overdrawn and bad things will happen. So I think from my own perspective, have I got the balance right? I think I've got it righter than I have. Is it perfect? No. Will it ever be? Don't think so. I'm not the kind of guy who aims for perfect. I aim for done. Is it done, right, Stuart? Yeah. Is it right? Maybe. This is coming from an engineer.
Be more like Stuart.
So, what are your takeaways?
Top tips from what a magnificent episode.
Really good.
There was a lot going on there that I had to be like, oh yeah, I meant to be doing all that stuff.
Yeah, it's not just
little reminders.
It's not just written down on a piece of paper. It's a lived experience.
Yeah, some of my tips.
Yeah.
just remind yourself that hustle for us often just feels like safety. We're using that not really to prove our ambition, but actually it's a kind of safe place for us, a control place for us. So we need to remind ourselves of that, because it's not. Quite often it's just pretty damaging, to be honest with you. But then, we're told to slow down, and it's really, really important for us to do that. But we need to be prepared for the fact that that will often trigger fear, because we're, everything in our brain is telling us that we must never slow down. And when we go into the anti-hustle culture, we fight the hustle. It doesn't mean emptiness. It just means better structure. It just means more structure to the way that we sort of navigate our days and stuff. And a big one for me, your worth is not based on your productivity levels. And productivity looks different to everybody, right? We've already discussed this in a lot of detail. But, it could just be getting to the end of your day, not hurting anybody, not sending any fuck off emails, and eating some food at some point, drinking enough water. That's a win.
Oh, I haven't drunk any water today.
Oh God, me neither. Oh no, I did have a cup of tea. So that's the point, isn't it? Actually, rather than creating an imaginary bar of what it looks like, this bar that we're meant to be reaching with our productivity, set your own goals. And there will be days where you just think to yourself, if I can get to the end of this day without being rude to anybody in my family and making sure I drink enough water, then that is a massive pat on the back win for me.
Yeah.
And sustainability, I've just said that really, but, sustaining the things that you need to do day to day is an active choice. You can choose that, and you can decide that that's a really good thing and an achievement. It isn't kind of less than. It doesn't make you less than, or like you're settling, or like you're not being productive enough. And lastly, for me, I've learnt this in recent years, and often the hard way, really. But actually, I feel now that my life is really meaningful and really successful, and it's quieter, and I'm not hustling, mainly because I'm too old and crap to do that. But luckily, my brain didn't want to stop the hustle. My body did. So actually, I'm a really good poster girl. For my body eventually was like, okay, this woman is never going to sort her own shit out. So we're just going to need to shut down some of the systems so that we're reining her in because she can't rein herself in. And that's really important, because actually I've learned a lot from that. I wish I hadn't had to, but actually it has done me a huge favour, because the life that I live now and the way that I run my day-to-day in my business is completely different, and there's so much more happiness and joy in there. So, sorry, that was like we needed some background music, some slow, like a kind of weird dream scenario where I'm like, and now I'm just living my best life. So that's it. That's it, really. Just don't buy into the hustle. That's my best tip today.
Fantastic. Well, let me give you a few rundown of my top tips. If you're feeling guilty doing less, that's conditioning, not truth. If the hustle urge is strong or rising, ask what will happen if you stop. What is the negative outcome of me not doing 16-hour days? And you're going to say it's financial. Look at your pricing. No structure without hustle. You've got to train yourself to have greater respect for your time and your energy, and create gentler rhythms in your life. Because I think that a lot of people hit their 40s and they've been burning through their youthful energy, and they get to a point where their ability to cope, they're all out of cope. Their cope goes away. A life event happens, either a health event, a familial member event, a work event, some kind of big old, you're not walking away without a scar from this one, event occurs, and something falls off the table, and your ability to cope goes away. And that's when it usually hits, because that's when mine, the one that I had in my mid-20s was very specific for the trauma before, but the big one during my late 30s, early 40s was completely due to disrespecting my own animal, the animal, the meat soup, just
I love
whatever
that.
you want to call it. Stop comparing yourselves to other people. Just be your own unique snowflake. I know that's really, really easy to say and much harder in person, but we are fairly unique individuals. Embrace the unique. In fact, more people are embracing their own uniqueness. And these days, you walk around. I tell you what, go out into the world, go and wander around your nearest urban conurbation, town, village, city, whatever it is, and just stand there and look at the people walking past. There won't be a man jack of them who look the same. And they're all going through their own bizarre, twisted version of whatever this existence is. So, be kind to yourself and realise that you are different to a vast majority of people in a way that those people will never even be able to comprehend. So be kind to yourself, because having the same attitude to yourself as other people is counterproductive and is certainly not anti-hustle. If you're thinking that you're falling behind or you're lacking momentum, so what? There isn't, you don't check out and then they look at your life and go, oh, well, they didn't earn enough. Oh, well, that's it. Don't record their name in the register.
There was a moment in 2024 where they weren't quite hustling hard enough. October.
He went in at 10 a.m, not 9. Get rid of him now. Sponge him. Put his name under Hitler. There we go. Yeah, move Stalin down. Put him in.
There he goes. Yeah.
There we are. And if you think you need to seek permission, obviously have conversations with your loved ones about slowing down. But if you think you need to have permission to take it easy and be gentle and kind on yourself, I'm telling you right now, you have my permission. You have Hannah's permission.
Yeah.
You are enough. Doesn't matter what you churn out, what you produce. Yes, fantastic works of art, great pieces of work, innovative and skillful uses of technology, fabulous. Just getting through the week and putting food on the table can be enough. It's a long old life. Live it well and be easy on yourself. Right. That's this week's core. There's a lot in there, a lot to unpack.
There's a lot. Yeah, my little brain's like catching up with all of so much information, but fabulous.
If you've liked it, like, share and subscribe. Tell people. Send it to a stranger. Play it on your phone in a crowded train carriage and see if you can't win us a few listens, maybe a like.
That's like a pay it forward moment.
It is.
Offer our magnificence to random people. They'll think you're a bit weird, maybe, but...
In fact, send it to someone you hate. We don't care. We
Just-
don't care what
just
your
get it
relationship
out
to them
there.
is. Just get it out. But thank you for listening. Hannah, what's next week's topic?
Next week is pretty well related to this week, really. So it's about protecting your energy when the world won't slow down. So we've got a lot of good advice in there.
Fantastic. Okay, well, join us again next week. Same place as this week. Episode 29 next week.
Whoa,
Ooh,
really?
Yeah, I know. Been going for
crazy.
more than half a year. So listen, share, subscribe, like, do all of those things, and we'll see you next week. Thanks very much for listening. Goodbye.
Bye. Step away from PAYE. Don't do it.